Welcome to Future Talks and Resting Advice on the Future. My name is Jan Sturesson, and I try to update you on various matters to create, I would say, competitive advantage about when looking into different issues and things happening around the globe to make sure that we get the right agenda for 2025. So let us start with number one, geopolitics, geo-economy, geo-technology. Maybe these three are coming into one, and the uncertainty is getting higher and higher on a higher and higher level, and I think there are things to really consider. Number one, what will happen with the greater Nordic collaboration between the Nordic countries? Number two, what will happen with the free riders like Switzerland, Norway, and UK? There are new opportunities in this space. Number two is conflicts and polarization, which means security, cybersecurity, but not least in cyber intelligence. How do we think about this? What actions do we take? And let me say, when it comes to conflicts, I think it's time to really look into the Middle East, including the democracy Israel, into this space. Because what happens the last days or weeks in Syria impacts almost every nation. And I think we see Turkey is moving up, Israel is moving up, Russia is moving down, Iran is moving down, and a complete new configuration. I think the most common nation in the coming months, maybe year, will be Iran, because there are so much of collaboration between Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, and there's a common enemy, including US and others, have Iran as the real enemy. So what is happening here? We don't know. But I'm saying because of the high-tech companies having their headquarters in Tel Aviv, and there's a lot of nice, I would say, collaboration in the Abrahamic Accord between KSA, UAE, and Israel, which is, to me and to many of us, a new season. Also, of course, we have the Ukraine and Russia war. Devastating intervention from Russia, but maybe it's time to think, when you hear the voice and the sound and the noise, it's maybe a new two-state solution, question mark. Number three will be international organizations. We have had a globalization process, maybe we have an anti-globalization or a regionalization. But whatever, the international and global organizations are signaling even stronger now, maybe because of this situation. I think the EU has an important thing. The European body and the AI Act, the migration, the trade is, of course, really key issues here. The UN, with the Strategic Development Goals, now moving, which is the outside, now moving into IDGs, Inner Development Goals. And when I'm looking in and double-clicking on some of these areas, I have a question mark when it comes to the being, thinking, relating, collaborating, and acting, very logic. At the same time, when you read about the being and the inner compass, I feel that UN is maybe moving into a space which is not theirs. It feels like syncretistic, gnosticistic processes of things which you leave to people on their own. I also think that the NATO means, and I'm coming from a country, Sweden, Sweden has become a member. What does NATO mean in Sweden right now? Of course, security, but number two, cost increase for every city, for every region, for all companies, including for the nation, about the investment in military and defense. So it's interesting to see what it means really in practice. When it comes to another organization like World Economic Forum, I think it's the word transhumanism and singularity is really key to understand and look upon. Because here we see, I think, the battle between human and machines. What will happen? Question mark. World Trade Organization is another one, and I think maybe we're moving into, I would say, value-based trade zones with trust. How do we think? Where do we have confidence and doing business, doing trade? I don't know, but let's look upon it, put it on the agenda, and figure it out. Number four in this strategic agenda, to me, is finance and debt. Internationally, nationally, and city-wise, or regions in the nations. Those who has a lot of debt have less freedom, we know. And the percentage of GDP is increasing in almost every nation. I'm happy to live in a country where we have very low, 30–40%, but US going through the 100, and it's more cost for interest than it's even for the military defense. This maybe says nothing, or it maybe says a lot. If you compare that to the increase maybe of the debt ceiling in January to March, I think this is a real good thing to put on the agenda when we look into financial markets and try to understand what could be the outcome of such a process. When it comes to debt, I also would like to say that it's about the supranational debt. For example, in EU, when we have COVID, the EU said, now we take a supranational debt, and we ask the nations to pay us. Before it was the nations who had a commitment directly. So this is a weak signal about something, about how debt is increasing in the world, in the public sector. Number 5 in this area would be skills and future of knowledge, future of competence. I read in the report, I was a part of it in the European Commission, future of skills, future of workforce in European industry. It said, we're overeducated but underskilled. And that's a very bad combination. So how do we think for the future in this paradigm shift when Merrill Lynch and other huge finance houses had a forecast about 200 to 300 million jobs will be lost because of AI? Of course, new jobs will come, but how do we make a good transition in this in-between space of logic and technology being applied and cultivated and taught and trained? Let me also say that when it comes to knowledge and vocation and skills, the word vocation means vocare, which means calling. So the question is, how do people get connected to their inner calling about who am I, what to do, and so on and so forth. Florence Nightingale was a fantastic lady, a leading entrepreneur in the healthcare sector who knew she was a nurse. She went on that, route, vocare, the call for her life, doing things. If we can connect these processes to teaching and training, I think we have a lot more passion and vision for the future. And we need to believe in the future where we are going. Number 6, it's basically the future of leaders and leadership. And the leading ship comes out of the Vikings from my region here in the Nordic countries. Are we on the leading ship or not? Even if the Vikings did a lot of bad stuff, we can think about how do we position ourselves as leaders? Do we walk ahead so people can follow? Are people following or not? So if no one is walking ahead, no one can follow. If no one is following, there is no person leading. So I'm thinking, how do we get courageous and humble leaders in public and private sector, really energizing the people, creating a sense of meaning, which will be absolutely pivotal for the future to get people on board for really tough and interesting and important tasks in their lives as professionals. Whatever industry they are in, it's the same thing. We need to make a difference, to have a point of view, to stand up with integrity and vision, and also, let's say, don't let fear guide our route. Don't let fear guide our path, but let vision and understanding and wisdom guide us into this new kind of uncertain territory and all the white spaces. So I think we should expect people to be even more professional when the political pressure comes. To be a civil servant means to really have integrity, to have a state of play and a comment who is trying to serve the political leadership. I might not agree, but I have to do my professional part to this objectively and by high-level knowledge, and to serve and understand what do they need for this case, this situation. Independent from the left to right, north to south, however we define it. Let me also say the future is about demography. Maybe we need new words like ecography or economy, because demography creates economy. And demography is the bloodstream, or the amount of blood in the bloodstream in the body of society. And we need some more blood, which means more children. Europe, US, China, it's good examples. We are out of children. Don't we believe in the future anymore? Question mark. So let's be inspired by both Africa and the Middle East, who have young population, great young entrepreneurs, and we've tried to, of course, help all of us to get into a greater future where we can apply the knowledge and education you get as a young professional. Let me also say number 8, technology. Technology is neutral. And we have AI commissions in every nation soon, so even in my country, Sweden. And we figured out 2 weeks ago, Sweden is lagging behind. We're the global top leader in the 90s. Every person in the nation had their own PC and started to work. Tax deduction, a lot of innovation, a lot of knowledge was applied in every sector and industry. Today, we are on, I think, 23. We were 17 some months ago or years ago. Now we're 23. So this is for all of us. How do we apply this? And how do we find the competitive advantage and the balance between what AI can do and not do? We saw the winner of the Alfred Nobel Prize some days ago, having a great opportunity, actually some of the inventing the things for these AI processes, very positive and very fearful. So I would say, how do we take the human beings being in control of AI? So AI can mean artificial intelligence or authentic intelligence. How can the authentic, like you and I, be the leader and the boss and the manager of the process? When we go into regulation and try to say it's neutral, but also a hammer is neutral to put a nail in the wall, or I can kill my neighbor. So how do we apply wisdom into these highly sensitive and highly complex processes in the future of technology? I would add synthetic biology. If you link that to Internet of Things, blockchain, and all this, and AI, you get a very important, I would say, ecosystem for the future. So watch up and look into it. Number 9 is about values. And I think the human being, with the status of the UN, human dignity, is very important. Everybody has the same value. If we say everybody, we don't need to have segments and minorities to put a balance on. Because if it's all, it's you and I, the right to speak, the right to think, the right to act, the right to worship, the right to everything, right? So that means the human dignity means we are more than a point of view. We are not just an opinion. I see many nations today they look upon human beings as an opinion. And I think that's to downgrade the humanity. We need to see that tolerance is great, but it's not good enough. We need to move from tolerance to respect, to say, wow, that's really interesting. I haven't been thinking about that. Let's collaborate. Let's think together. Then you explore with respect different thoughts and ideas. If you only say, I tolerate you, which basically means I don't care, you're crazy. But let's come into respect and have the variety and diversification of all people's ideas and really respect you. As they said in the 70s, I hate what you say, but I'm ready to give my life for your right to say it. That's a very good liberal point about freedom in society. Number 10 is the green critical infrastructure. And we have a gigantic investment need in basically all nations around the globe. Number 1, it's ICT and platforming. We need common platforming, common logic. It's about energy, green energy, battery, and we need storage. It's solar, it's wind, it's nuclear, it's everything in a new ecosystem. And today, many in Europe, not least Sweden and Germany, are lagging behind because of different discussions and decisions. So right now, it's hard to transfer, and today the price of a 1 kilowatt hour is right now about €1. Think about it. It's really, really devastating for a lot of people. So how do we come into a sustainability, applying that the lack of energy, the lack of system and responsibility between producing, distributing, consuming, selling, and all of these kind of things. It's a need for a real deep dive into these areas. Transportation as the future of train and future of rail, future of airplane and aviation. When we were thinking before, oh, it's too much fossil fuel, it's not. It's electric airplanes in the future. So how do we get the aviation industry up and flying on a green route with high technology and making sure that we can continue to travel and exchange ideas, which will increase the knowledge for the future and hopefully also wisdom. It's also about water and sewage, which is a huge European and maybe US problem, because the pipes have huge leakage, and it's billions of dollars in my nation, in many nations around. What will we see here? Will we see new collaboration between city-owned or regional-owned or state-owned or private-owned companies who are dealing with this, having new grants and money from the public sector to fix this? I see this as a very, very big thing. I think politics will move into a very basic thing, as we did in the 1800th century or beginning of 1900th century, talking about water and sewage as a great idea. We are back on that square again, maybe. So how will this look into politics and technology and infrastructure? Because this is also about one thing: security. Security of water, transport, energy, and communication. Number 11 in this, it's about colonizing the future. Raw material, minerals, food, and people. Maybe we see that both China and Russia always colonized Africa and South America, of getting everything they need for the future. And how are we having the future balance between the West and the East and the North and the South about what is needed? Have this process just happened? I think it's happened without any really strategic communication. And maybe it's time to lift up and have a solid, transparent discussion about what happened, where do we stand, what do we see, what do we do, and why. The next point here is number 12, and it's about the welfare crime. I think there's a threat in many societies because of the terrorism, because of the shootings and the gang violence, and it's a lot about, I would say, it's a threat against democracy. Because we see in Europe, especially, US as well, a lot of actions being taken on people, different points of view, and it's kind of a nightmare to understand what is next. So how do we come into a more robust and solid process when we think about this? How can we be less naive and understand that people are creeping under your skin, or the organization, if you work in a big company or in the city management role or a regional public sector thing or a state or a city-owned company, that we need to put much stronger both IT security and other, I would say, fences around to protect both data and to understand who are the people working on this and why. This is just the beginning of a very sad but kind of new era. At the same time, this has always, of course, been the case. So how do we upgrade these issues of welfare crime? Here AI could be wonderful to make analysis, because AI is great in both healthcare and security, but where is the balance between enough cameras and surveillance systems and so on and so forth, keeping the integrity in place? Having said that, we come into 13. We also have 2 more bullet points. Operational effectiveness. My question is it time for the public sector, and maybe also private, to make a completely new zero-based budgeting process? To say, okay, if we start today, what do we need to have? What do we do? How many staff? What technology? What process? What structure is needed? Maybe it has grown and expanded big time over our own control and management, and the leaders are fearful and not taking responsibility. I think we need a zero-based strategic budgeting process for public sector. Number 14, strategic collaboration and new ways of working together, and try to trust one another, try to have empathy, and really, okay, let's do it together. It's a win-win, people say. Yeah, very good, but great collaboration very often starts with lose-lose identity. How could that be? Because it takes some time to all stakeholders in the process of collaboration gain the momentum and the profits out of the process, which means we need to come in and serve one another and say, let's have a little rough in the beginning, but as we go and we work for each other's success and prosperity, then you get a win-win when you come over the hill or up to the hill and see the light about how can we collaborate. I also think this is about trying to have, if we do things together, you don't do it yourself. We don't need parallel processes. We need to say, okay, this is now gone. We do it together. Effectiveness, productivity, and efficiency are the key words for the future, linked also to the zero budgeting process. Finally, brand management of your company, of your city, of your region, and even of yourself. Talking about yourself, it's about what position will you take? What kind of leadership integrity will you have? What kind of vision will you communicate to the people around you? In your own leadership team, or to your nation, or worldwide, whatever you do. I think we have to walk with passion and vision. And passion means walking even against the wind when it's hard. Because then if you have a vision in that situation, people will recognize you as maybe unstoppable or a real courageous, great person with a lot of passion for humanity, for technology, for better values, and for effective production of service in the public and private sector. So I will conclude here. The brand of your organization, the brand of you, will impact everything. And that's a summary of all the 14 points here, which I said in the beginning. This is about how do we create competitive advantage on different levels. Your brand, your organization's brand, is a part of the process. So I wish you a great 2025, standing up as a great leader with vision and integrity, believing in the future, and create security and certainty when people are afraid or are uncertain. I think that's the role of a great servant leader. Thank you, and bye for now. Check into the webpage of Resting or Jan Sturesson. Do whatever. Have a great time. Thank you.